Most transformation programs look healthy in year 1 and fail quietly in year 2. Not in the templates, not in the dashboards, not in anything you can point to in a board pack. In the conversations that stop happening around month 15. This episode is on exactly that pattern. What year 2 failure actually looks like, why almost nobody designs for it at the start, and what PMO built to survive its second year looks like instead. If you're running a transformation program that is past its first birthday and you cannot quite say why it feels heavier than it did, this one's for you. Let's go. Hello and welcome to Regen on Purpose, where we explore regenerative leadership, delivery and systems that strengthen over time. I'm Karen Gray. Let's begin. Let me start with a claim and then spend the rest of the episode earning it. Most transformation programs do not fail in year 1. They fail in year 2. And the reason they fail is that almost nobody designs the governing function, the PMO, to survive the program into its second year. The PMO, the Project Management Office, is the function that governs the program. When a transformation fails in year 2, the PMO usually is where it begins, because the thing that is meant to stop everything failing has quietly stopped doing its job. Here is what I mean. Year 1 of the transformation program is a particular kind of environment. There is energy, there is a mandate, there is a sponsor who fought to get the program approved and is personally vested in its landing. There is novelty, new templates, new governance, new cadence, new roles, and there is attention, senior attention, which is the scarcest resource in any organization, is pointed directly at that thing. In that environment, almost anything works. You can stand up a PMO that is structurally weak and still perform in year 1, because the attention compensates for the weakness. People escalate because the sponsor's watching. Risks get raised and surfaced because everyone knows the program matters. The templates get filled in properly because filling them in is visibly valued. Year 1 rewards the build, and the build feels like success. Then year 2 arrives. In year 2, the sponsor's attention has moved, not because they stopped caring, because something else got approved. Some new fire started burning, and the senior attention is a flow, not a stock. It moves. That's its nature. The novelty has worn off. The templates that were exciting to design are now routine to maintain. The governance that felt like progress now feels like an overhead. The people who built the PMO have been pulled onto the next thing, and the people maintaining it did not build it and do not have the same ownership. And the tension that was compensating for every structural weakness in year 1, that tension has gone. So everything that was being held up by tension starts to sag, quietly. And because it sags quietly, no one calls it failure. They call it business as usual. That is the trap. Year 2 failure does not announce itself. It does not look like a program going off the rails. It looks like a PMO that is still running, still reporting, still meeting, and somehow no longer changing anything. Let me make this concrete, because the pattern in abstract sounds like a management cliche, and it's not. It is specific, and it has a specific shape, and once you have seen it, you cannot unsee it. I want to take you inside what I've come to think of as the month 15 silence. Month 15 is not a particular number. It is somewhere in that second year window, a few months after the launch energy has drained and before anyone has noticed it's gone. But the pattern is constant enough that I can describe it almost like a scene. Picture the steerco, the monthly steering committee for a transformation program that is now in month 15. In month 3, that meeting was alive. The sponsor asked hard questions. The program director sweated the answers. Someone from the business pushed back on the date. And there was a real, slightly uncomfortable conversation about whether the date was achievable. A risk got raised that nobody had seen coming, and the room spent 20 minutes on it because it mattered. Now it is month 15. Same meeting, same room, same people, mostly. The pack is better than it's ever been. The slides are clean, the rag is mostly green, with a couple of well-managed ambers that have been amber for a while and that everybody has quietly agreed not to look at too closely. The program director presents, the sponsor nods, someone asks a question, but it is a comfortable question, a question with a known answer, asked to fill the silence rather than surface anything new. Nobody is lying. That is the thing I most want you to hear. Nobody in that room is being dishonest. Every number on every slide is accurate. The meeting is, by every visible measure, a well-run governance forum, and nothing is happening. The risk that should have been raised is not being raised, not because anyone is hiding it, but because the person who can see it has learned over the past year that raising it costs more than not raising it. The hard question about the amber that has been amber for 4 months is not being asked because the sponsor's attention is elsewhere. The program director is not going to volunteer a problem that nobody is pressing on. The conversation that would actually change the trajectory of the program, that conversation is not happening. And its absence is visible because you cannot see a conversation that does not take place. There is no slide for that discussion you do not have. That is the month 15 silence. It is the sound of a transformation program that has stopped surfacing the truth, dressed up as a transformation that is running smoothly. And here is why this is so dangerous. By the time it shows up in the numbers, by the time the slipping project finally slips far enough that the rag goes red, and the benefit that is not being realized finally has been written off, the recovery is enormously more expensive than the conversation would have been 12 months earlier. The silence does not save the cost. It defers it and it adds interest. So why does almost nobody design for this? 3 reasons. They are worth naming because each one points to a different part of the fix. The first reason is that year 1 is so absorbing that nobody has the capacity to think about year 2. Standing up a transformation program is genuinely hard. The people doing it are working flat out to get the thing launched. Asking them in month 2 to design for failure mode that will not appear until month 15 is asking for a kind of foresight that pressure on the launch actively crowds out. So it doesn't happen. The PMO gets designed to launch well because launching well is the problem in front of everyone's face. The second reason is that metrics of the year 1 actively disguise the year 2 risk. In year 1, a PMO is judged on whether it has stood things up. Is the governance in place? Are the templates being used? Is the reporting cadence running? These are built metrics, and they all look good in year 1 precisely because the tension is there to make them look good. Nobody is measuring the thing that will matter in year 2, which is whether the PMO can keep surfacing the truth once the tension is gone. There is no year 1 metrics for that, so it is not managed because it's not measured. The third reason is the hardest and is the one I want to spend the most time on. The third reason is that designing for year 2 requires building a PMO that does not depend on the senior's attention to function. And most senior leaders, without realizing it, build PMOs that depend on their attention, because their attention is that thing that makes them feel in control. Let me say this again, because it is subtle. The sponsor's attention in year 1 is not just compensating for structural weaknesses. It is also quietly the mechanism by which the sponsor feels they have a grip on the program. The escalations come to them. The hard questions are theirs to ask. The program performs because they are watching, and their watching feels like leadership. And that is exactly the thing that cannot scale into year 2, because their attention will move. It always moves. A PMO that works well when a sponsor's watching is a PMO with a 15-month fuse on it. So what is the alternative? This is where regenerative delivery stops being a philosophy and becomes a set of design decisions. Let me give you the ones that matter most for surviving the year 2. The first is this. A regenerative PMO is designed to surface the truth without depending on the senior attention to pull it out. In practice, that means the mechanisms for surfacing bad news cannot rely on someone senior asking the right question at the right meeting. They have to build into the system in a way that operates whether or not anyone is watching. The risk that matters has to have a path to the surface that does not run through sponsors' curiosity on a given Tuesday. How do you do that? You make it safe. You make it routine for people closest to the work to realize what they actually see, and you do it in a way that does not punish them raising it. The team will test you before they trust you. They will raise one uncomfortable thing and watch what happens to the person who raised it. If it goes badly, the channels close. And it closes for a year. If it goes well, if the person who surfaced the hard truth is visibly better off for having done it, the channels stay open. This is not a template. This is a leadership behavior, repeated until it is believed. The second design decision, a regenerative PMO measures the things that predict year 2 health, not just the things that prove year 1 build. Year 1 metrics are built metrics. It is stood up. Year 2 metrics are signal metrics. Is the truth still moving? When did someone last raise a risk that surprised us? How long has our oldest amber been amber? How many of the decisions in our last 3 steercos were real decisions versus confirmations of a decision already taken elsewhere? These are measurable. Almost nobody measures them. They are the leading indicators of whether your PMO is heading for the month 15 silence. The third design decision, and the most people resist, is that a regenerative PMO is designed to get lighter over time, not heavier. The default trajectory of a PMO is to get heavier. Every incident adds a control. Every near miss adds a checkpoint. Every audit adds a report. Nothing is ever removed because removing a control feels like inviting the risk back. So the PMO gets heavier every quarter, and the weight is one of those things that produces the month 15 silence, because a heavy PMO trains everyone to perform compliance rather than surface the truth. Regenerative PMO has a mechanism for removal built in. It asks regularly, what controls are no longer earning their place? It retires reports that have stopped driving decisions. It treats the weight of the PMO as something to be actively managed down, not allowing it to pile up unchecked. Governance that gets sharper rather than heavier, that is the phrase I keep coming back to. And this is what it means in practice. Now, here is where AI comes in. The reporting overhead that makes a PMO heavy is exactly the kind of work AI can take off the table. Used well, AI can absorb the mechanical production of reports, the formatting, the rolling up, the version control, and give that time back. The regenerative move is to step the recovered time onto conversations that the reporting was meant to enable, not producing more reports. But as I've said in this relaunch episode, most organizations are doing the opposite. They are using AI to produce more reports faster, which makes the PMO heavier, which deepens the month 15 silence. AI accelerates the dysfunction. The tool is neutral. The design decision is everything. Let me close the diagnostics with something practical, because some of you listening are not at the start of a transformation. You are at month 15 right now. And you have recognized the silence as I have been describing. So what do? You do not reorganize the PMO. That is the instinct and is the wrong one. Reorganizing is a year 1 move. It is built energy. And it is the kind of visible activity that feels like leadership while changing nothing underneath. What you do instead is reopen a channel, one channel. Find the person closest to the work who has stopped telling you the truth. And you have the conversation that makes it feel safe for them to start again. Not in the steerco, privately. You ask them the question you have not been asking. What do you see that is not making it into the reporting? And when you do the hard part, which is that you receive the answer without punishing them, you make that person who told you the uncomfortable thing visibly better off for having told you. That single act, done credibly, does more to reverse year 2 failure than any restructure, because it signals that the channel is open again. And the channels, once they are seen to be open, start carrying traffic. Then you do it again with the next person, and the channel widens. This is the recovery. It is slower than a restructure. It is far more effective because it addresses the actual failure, the silence, rather than the visible symptoms the silence produces. Next month, I want to talk about something that affects most experienced people in this field, and that almost nobody is naming out loud: the experienced PM trap. This is the point somewhere around year 10 where experience stops making you better the way it used to. The early years, every project teaches you something that changes how you work. Then quietly that slows down. You are still good. You have just stopped pulling ahead. AI is the first thing in 20 years that can restart the growth. But the window to pick it up on your own terms is closing fast, faster than most people realize. That is next month. Thank you for listening to Regen on Purpose. Sustainability is a starting point. Regeneration is the natural progression. Until next time, design for strength and start building what lasts.